What's up, guys, gals, and non-binary pals? My name is Naomi. Welcome to House of Miscellania. Today I'm coming at you with a WIP and chat. WIP stands for work in progress, and I'm going to chat and work on my canvas for about an hour. For those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. Glad to see you. Nice to meet you. And those of you who are coming back to see me, welcome back. It's been a week since the last time we talked. Let's get caught up. I will be reading a tarot card as our thought for the week at the end of the video. So if you're interested in having your thought for the week, then please stick around for that. I've got a little bit of a heavy one this time, and so I'm hoping the tarot has something to say for me. Let me get into my tools before I get too far along. My straightening tool is actually from Flowa Designs. This was from last year's Mary Morales set that was sold, but I like to use it for straightening things out. I set that aside. I don't need it right now. I am using a pen from Diamond Pen Pal. This is the Satura pen. The reason I like this one so much is because it's super chunky, and this is their chubby style pen, and I need a thick pen for my carpal tunnel. And inside of my single placer, I am using Ghost from Diamond Painting Daily. And then in my multi-placer, I'm actually going to be loading up with Diamond Art Club's Sparkle Sticky, like their old putty that they used to do. I don't think they're doing that anymore. I'm not certain, but the tray here is from Firefly. This is the Switch Mini Max. It has a removable lid, a removable trash tray, which I always take those out, and then an open and close pour spout, which there's also a nice little hole here in the top you can put your pen in so it doesn't roll away. If you're looking for any of these, links will be down in the description, so go ahead and check that out if you are yourself interested. The diamond painting that I'm working on, you get a little sneaky peeky of her face right here. It's so freaking cute. Let me find a picture for you. This is Dorothy's Friends from Ever After Diamond Painting, if I can find, there we go. Dorothy's Friends from Ever After by Shay J. Reed. This is a 60 by 78 in square, 71 colors. It's really cute. I'm like right over in this area right here next to her face. So that's what we will be working on, is the poppy field that's over here to the side of her. Oh my gosh, you guys, where to begin? We had a really great time on Saturday's live stream, and so I had a story that I promised to tell, but I'm trying to figure out if I want to do this like an unboxing video where I give you like the bummer points first and then end on a high note, or start you on a high note and then bring it on down, because I have some news and I want to talk about something that maybe isn't characteristically positive for me. I tend to find the good in all situations, and like it's not something that where do I start? Let me just go ahead and share some news that I got. I'd like to talk a little bit about that and then move on to more happy topics, because I'm kind of floundering, and I feel like if I don't get it off my chest, then I'm gonna just be sitting here the whole time trying to, you know, I guess fake my way through a happy story when I'm not really feeling all that happy. So let me just get what I have off of my chest, talk about it a little bit, because to be honest with you, I've like messaged a couple of people, and a couple people kind of vaguely know what's going on. A couple people know maybe a little bit more for details, but I'll just kind of get into it. If you don't want to listen to me be bummed out and whatnot, I'd say cut forward like 15, 20 minutes, maybe a little longer, check in after 15 and 20 minutes. But I'm forewarning, I'm going to talk about some really bummer topics. Okay. So I apologize in advance, but I feel like if I don't process it, then it won't ever go away. And then I'm just sort of sitting here with it. So bear with me. I apologize. And then I'll go back and I will talk about some nostalgic things and a funny story that I had to tell you guys. Told you on the live stream on Saturday that I would tell you a funny story, and I still will do that because it's hilarious and I think I'll need a laugh after this anyways. My phone is currently off, and it's a money thing. It's not a big deal. That's not actually what the bummer part is. I mean, my phone rarely ever rings, and so it wasn't for me like a hard decision to go, well, like I can wait until I have some money again to pay the phone bill, right? Well, it's only relevant insofar as I got a phone call, but it was on my husband's phone, on Dustin's phone. And he wakes me up. I'd only been asleep for a couple of hours because some of you probably know I sleep very strange hours. I go to sleep at, like usually 4 or 5 in the morning, and then I'll sleep until sometimes like 11:30, noon. That's about when I usually get up and I start my day, do my stuff. Sometimes later, just kind of depends. Well, it was probably about 9:30 in the morning on Sunday. Dustin just kind of pokes me awake, and I like roll over. I'm like, what's up? He's like, your brothers are on the phone. Now, I haven't spoken to either of my brothers since my older brother's birthday back in April. And then prior to that, I don't know, it was months. Like we don't talk a lot. I don't dislike them. I'm not, they're not disowned or anything like that. It's just we all kind of carry on our separate lives. We live very close to one another. My older brothers and I, they live about 15 minutes north of the city that I live in a smaller town that's almost connected to the city that I live in, because the city I live in has almost swallowed their little town. Well, anyways, I answer, and they're both on the phone on like a conference call. And I said hello, and they said, Naomi, our dad has passed away. And my first instinct, honestly, was to apologize to them. Like, are you guys okay? Because my dad and I have had a very estranged relationship since, well, the last time that I saw my dad was in 1991 when I was 11, and the last time that I spoke to my dad was in 2008. There's a rule that I've picked up as a parent, especially since I have been through a divorce myself now, and that was always a rule that I would not speak poorly of my ex-husband, especially with my daughter. Because when I was younger, my parents kind of used me as a go-between. I don't know what other better way to put it. My mom used me as a weapon against my dad. My dad used me kind of as a weapon against my mom. And it was really complicated. Now, I don't want to get into too many details because people have experiences of their own, And I'm not trying to dredge up anything horrible for anybody else, because that's just not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to trauma dump on you, which is why I gave full warning that if, you wanted to listen, you're welcome to, but by all means, if you don't want to be bummed out and this is a lot for you to try and wrap your head around on a Wednesday, then it's okay to not listen too. That said, when I was younger, my mom had told me some information which, even at the time, I really kind of knew was not true. But as she was my mom, I thought, well, but why would she lie? And there was a lot of really heavy manipulation. My mom attempted to convince me of some goings on with my dad of a very incredibly serious nature. And then as a further screw you to my dad, she contacted police, got police involved, attempted to get me to tell them, like, basically repeat what she had told me as fact. Meanwhile, my stepsister was put in foster care. My dad was temporarily put in jail while they did their investigation or whatever. And my response to basically every police officer that talked to me was like, I don't remember any of this happening. Eventually he was released. His stepdaughter was placed back in the home, and nothing came of it except my dad obviously hating my mother's guts, understandably, and then me being stuck in the middle of these two people. At the time, I was, 10 or 11, probably. My younger sibling had just been born, maybe 6 months prior. And I've mentioned it before, but my mom was very mentally ill, clearly. And I knew that my younger sibling was defenseless. I mean, if I wasn't there to make sure that she was okay, I was not sure that it would be okay. And I made a decision after all of this happened to tell my dad that I didn't want to talk to him anymore, because I was stuck between two parents who now were never going to be able to get along. And I worried about my younger sibling. I basically became a parent to my sister from that point forward, while my mom was busy with other things and was very mentally ill. So you can understand why things would be weird already, right? And then why my life was not super pleasant. Well, I remember talking to Dustin about everything fairly early on in our relationship. It was 2008. I was about to turn 28. And our kiddo was like 2, maybe, at the time. And he's like, you should call him and just see, just talk to him. Just find out what he says. Because, at the time I'm like, I don't know if he'd ever forgive me, if he'd ever speak to me, blah, blah, blah. And finally, he's like, just talk to him. You don't know. You never know. And you're not going to have an answer unless you try. And I was like, that's a good point. So I called him. And apparently he was still angry. but he wasn't angry with my mother. He was angry with me. His last words at that time were, you know, it's your fault that your kids don't have a grandfather, and you should have known better. And that was the last time I spoke to him. And so I have a lot of feelings when my brothers call me. I'm sad for what can now never be. Because my brothers would tell me when they would see him, because I had a relationship with him. Oh, Dad loves you. He's proud of you. And it's like really funny way of showing it. And apparently, according to them on the phone on Sunday, you know, he was just waiting for me to call him again. Well, like, you don't burn yourself on the stove and then go right back to touching the burner. So I don't know why I would have called him again, right? To try and, I don't know, make amends for whatever my mother tried to convince me to do when it was her fault and not mine. And then my brothers also said, oh, well, we're pretty sure you're in the will. And I'm thinking, like, why would I be? He was awful to me the last time that we spoke. And I'm not saying that I don't understand why he would be upset. I just don't understand why he was upset with me. I never lied about anything. I tried. I don't know. I'm kind of cried out about it, which is why I'm not crying now. I've also been, the last few days, in this, like, what if loop on, and granted, that whole us being able to reconcile and whatever, like, that obviously, that time's past. It's gone. That can't be regained, right? But I think about, you know, I don't expect anything from him. I don't want anything from him, really. I do, but what I want, I can't have. And so it's really a weird place for me to be in mentally. And it's like part of me goes, well, if I am in the will, that will answer a question for me, that I wasn't just a footnote to him, that he actually did love me and he did care and what have you. But another part of me is half expecting there to be some sealed envelope with a FU message in it, because the phone works two directions. You know, he could have called me and said that he forgives me for what she did. I don't know. And so I'm not expecting anything. Yes, an inheritance, like even $500 would change my life right now. But I don't expect it from him. You know what I mean? I don't. All I want is to know that I wasn't just a shame to him, a mistake, or I don't know. And I'm like doing myself damage by sitting and playing the what if game on, and I think I've mentioned it. It was, oh, oh no, not the drills. Hold on one second. Well, thankfully, most of those went into my closed, like I had my legs crossed, so they went into my lap. Oh my God. Well, that's par for the course for how I've been. But yeah, I'm in this circular thinking of best case scenario and worst case scenario. And it's like, I'm honestly, I think what's getting me through all of it is the serenity prayer and just remembering to understand what I can and cannot control and what I can and cannot change, and kind of going from there. It's really complicated. It's a very complicated set of emotions, and Sunday I did manage to get one pen turned, but I rescheduled. I'm going back over on Sunday again, and then as many times as it takes until they're done. And everybody's got what they need, because I want to make sure that everybody else is happy and whatnot. I need to make sure that when I go into turning the pens, that my mind is in the right place, because also remember, I'm putting intentions into these pens, and I don't want somebody else getting my janky energy, you know what I mean? But it's been better. I've had a lot of walks and a lot of talks with Dustin, just processing through, and I'm in a better place mentally today than what I was yesterday, and I'm sure tomorrow I'll be in a better place than I am today. So but it's a lot of thoughts and feelings, and I think I had mentioned prior that freaking toilet just started running for no reason. I think I had mentioned before, or at least to a couple of people, that, you know, like my dad, he became a computer programmer right out of the military in the late 80s, early 90s, and he was able to make more than comfortable living for himself. And so any amount of money would really change my life. It's not about the money of it, though, if that makes sense. Like, what it would tell me is that my brothers didn't lie, that, you know, he really did think of me, that he was in fact sorry for what he said the last time that we spoke. And even though I didn't know him, I'll at least get closure for the woulda, coulda, shouldas. And here's the lesson that I have for people who are going through, not similar necessarily, but just that constant rumination and the cycle that we can get into about, you know, hoping for the best and expecting the worst or whatnot. And that is, at the end of the day, whatever will be, will be. And I am grateful for the life. I'm alive, and I wouldn't be without him, right? And I'm grateful for the time that we did spend together. And I remember, here's a fun memory for you. Okay, my dad hated the fact that when we were kids, my mom would always use the, you know, wait till your father gets home kind of threat with us. And she didn't spank us. He was always the one that was supposed to spank us. And I remember there was one time I'd gotten in trouble for something, and I think I was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old. And my dad was in the living room, and, you know, I don't know about kids nowadays, but we would get objects. It wasn't just a hand, it was sometimes a belt. And, you know, I wasn't expecting the belt. I don't think what I did was heinous enough for the belt, but I knew I was going to get a spank, right? Well, when I went in there, and I'm scared crapless of the fact that my dad's going to give me a spanking, I remember going in the living room where he was. My mom was in the kitchen, and he's got this look on his face. I don't know how to describe it because, again, I was so young that even trying to describe this look to you, I wouldn't even know what to call it now. But there was just like this kind of like half smile look on his face. And I remember thinking like, why is he smiling? Like, is this fun for him? And he whispered to me, now I'm going to clap my hands together and I'm going to tell you, I'm like, you need to pretend like you're being spanked, because if you don't pretend good enough, then I'm really going to have to spank you. And I remember feeling like a co-conspirator, like, okay, I think I can do that. Like, I think I can fake it, you know, whatever. And he clapped his hands together and I pretended to get my butt whooped and did not get a butt whooping. And I'm grateful for those kinds of moments where he did show me how kind he could be. Like, I remember I had gone to see him prior to my mom stirring up falsities about him. I had gone to see him, and my brother had a friend over overnight. His name was John, and he came out into the living room area, like dining room, wearing just boxer shorts, and not like the boxer shorts where you could accidentally flop a wiener out of them because there's a hole in the front. They were like, you know, they were buttoned up, they were closed, whatever. But I remember my dad like flipping ass on him and told him, you get your ass back in that bedroom and you put some effing clothes on, because he didn't want me to be around a dude in boxer shorts. So you know, he was protective of me, he cared about me, and I am grateful for those memories of my dad. And I guess we'll see whether or not, maybe, who knows? I played the best case scenario, and I was like, maybe there's a letter in there that says that he was sorry. I don't expect it. Like I said, I don't expect anything. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to hope for. I mean, even being in his will and him leaving me $5 would tell me something. You know what I mean? It would answer some questions. And then I can move on. But so you want to know how bougie my dad is. He died while on a cruise. And there are actually a lot of there's a lot of like red tape that goes along with that, and so we're trying to coordinate things. I don't think there'll be a funeral, and if there is, I don't think I would go. I don't wanna like spoil that memory for the people who have been in his life for the last, you know, however many years. I am fine with my own memories, and I will hold on to those, and I will be able to, on my own time and in my own way, just, you know, say my piece. But I want to know first, you know, like, what did I mean to this person before I go saying angry words to somebody who can't, you know, hear them or whatever. But I'm going to find my own closure. And I guess that's all I'm hoping for, is just closure. Because there were a lot of things I never got to talk to my mom about before she died, because she also died very suddenly. And I've had to make my peace with the conversations that she and I never had, like talking about this stuff that happened with my dad. And so the story from my live stream on Saturday, we were talking about 90s nostalgia, and one of the questions was, it was like a 90s would you rather, and it was, hold on, it was, would you rather something to do with the mall. I'm gonna look up my questions. It was something like, would you rather hang out at the mall, or let me keep looking. Oh, would you rather time travel back to a 90s mall or a 90s arcade? Which, if you are a 90s kid, then you know that the 90s arcade is in the 90s mall, right? That was one of the best parts. I was talking about all these different stores, and I remembered the name of the store was St. Patrick's. And this store in particular, because there was like the Kincaid store. I remember I used to go in there. Of course, Spencer's was around in the 90s, Spencer Gifts, and you know, like, I hung out in the Spencer's. But St. Patrick's was this like bath store where you could get bath beads. Okay, now if you are a 90s kid, then you probably remember they were bath beads, but they were like this sort of the outsides were made of this like dissolvable like whatever it was a hard shell. It felt like a shell, right? But then when you'd get it in the water, it would dissolve. And inside of all of these beads, and they came in different shapes, right? You could get stars or a moon or just a ball or a dolphin or whatever. But they were like, you know, this big. They weren't very big. And they had just a little bit of scented oil in them. And this place had other stuff too, but I remember the bath beads because I was fascinated with these bath beads. Needed a drink. So I would go, and I feel like the bath beads were like 5 cents each, or, you know, 50 for $1, whatever the hell it was. I don't do math. I just remember you could buy like a whole ass bag of them, and it was pretty cheap. Well, you know, my mom would either let me just go to the mall. I'd ride the bus, and this was when I was like 8 or 9 years old. My mom would let me ride the like city bus by myself to the mall, and I would go there with, you know, $5 or $10, hang out at the food court, you know, whatever, and I would end up coming home with a bag full of these bath beads. And this was a normal occurrence for me. It was all of the time. Well, I love baths. I've been a bath person as long as I can remember. I don't like showers. It's something to do with the water touching my face. I do not like water in my face. I don't like the sensation of it. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And so I'll take baths because then I can control how the water touches my face. If the water touches my face, which most of the time I don't dip my full face under the water in the bathtub, so it doesn't touch my face, right? Well, I would take baths all the time. I would have these freaking bath beads, and, you know, it would be this scented bomb of bath smells, okay? Well, so I would get them all the time. And then I realized that, of course, after you're done using a bath bead in the bathtub, the whole bathtub is really oily, okay? It's like basically putting scented baby oil, I mean, I don't know a better way to describe it, into the bathtub. A bathtub is porcelain. So it not only becomes oily, it also becomes very slippery, okay? I think you're probably knowing where I'm going with this already. My mother used to love to tell this story to everybody. And I'm talking like boyfriends. She would tell my boyfriends this story. She would tell my friends this story. I don't think I have a single friend of mine that does not, from, you know, when my mother was alive, that does not know the story about the bath beads. My relatives know the story. My friends from back then know the story. Like, everybody knows the freaking story because I put the bath beads in the bathtub, enjoyed my bath. When I finished with the bath and I emptied out the tub, the tub was slippery at that point because of the oils. Well, the back of the bathtub isn't straight up and down, or wasn't. The one that we had wasn't straight up and down. You know how like baths, they come down at an angle so that you kind of lay comfortably in the bathtub. And so I realized that I could sit on the back ledge and then slide down into the tub because it was oily. And I did that over and over and over and over and over and over until I legitimately made my ass so raw. Like, I basically not rug burned, but like tub burned my ass, and until it was like raw, no skin on it, like weeping from plasma because I had no skin on my butt anymore. And I ended up getting out of the tub, and I told my mom that my butt hurt, and I showed my mom, and sure as crap, my butt was just raw from sliding in the bathtub with bath beads. And even Dustin, like, within the first, I don't know, 3 months of our being together, got to hear this story from my mother. And oh my God, I can't tell you how many times I'd be like, Mother, could you not tell everybody this story? Oh no, she had to tell everybody the story about how I completely burned my ass raw with bath beads. And now you know. Whoops. Listen, I was having a gay old time in the bathtub, sliding around in there until, you know, I ended up sliding all the skin off my ass. Because porcelain is very unforgiving to human butt skin. I'll tell you that much. Oh, my Lord. But do you guys, like, remember the 90s mall? I think the mall now makes me really sad to go into because most of the stores are empty. It's like a ghost town. There's still a Claire's in there, like for ear piercing and whatever. The Claire's is still there somehow. I worked at the mall. I worked at the Deb store, which was basically like, I don't know, teen slut store, because they sold clothing. Like, I remember girls that worked at the strip club would come there for shoes or underpants because we sold lots of fancy underpants. We had like hot pants. You guys remember hot pants? Like, it would be these like stretchy material. They'd be like lame almost. Terrible. Awful, awful, awful. But yeah, we sold those at Deb. And so the strippers would come there and load up on underpants. Or we sold those high-heeled platform shoes where the back was like empty. It was like clear plastic and it was empty, and you could put stuff in it like lights or, you know, whatever. I suppose you could put a liquid drink in there if you really wanted to. But we had those. I mean, and the shoes were cheap, so you could get a pair of these like platform clear heels for, you know, $10. They were just cheapy material. But yeah, I worked at the Deb. Where else? You know what I miss about like 80s mall was KB Toys. We had a KB Toys in our mall. I mean, granted, like the Toys R Us was a whole ass separate store. Like it had its own like building or whatever, not in the mall. We had KB Toys in the mall. I remember begging to go into KB Toys. And then you had like, who eventually, was it Sears that eventually put FAO Schwartz in their like flagship stores? Because I remember that too. But yeah, I miss the 80s and 90s mall. It's like kids nowadays, they don't even understand. They don't even know. It's sad too, because I remember working at the mall and you could still smoke in the mall. Like, people were smoking just walking down the frickin', walking down the lanes or whatever of the mall, smoking cigarettes. That was like, they always had, I don't know, a bunch of trees inside of the mall, probably to try and clear the air of all of the cigarette smoke, because holy crap, people smoked in the mall. There's like too much smoking in the mall. But I was like, became an assistant manager at 19 of the Deb store. I remember, oh my gosh, I remember this one time, it was a young man had come in to the store, and he, at first he was shopping around, like acting shifty, like acting weird, but not in a I'm trying to steal this stuff sort of way, like trying to hide the fact that he was shopping for himself. And I remember asking him, like walking up and asking him, like, do you need a dressing room? And he looked at me like I was crazy, right? And I mean, back then, I don't know if he was trans or if he was just a person who liked to dress as a, presenting woman or what. But really, like, if people were trying to be trans, it was very much kept like a secret. And I remember him, looking at me like, are you serious? And I told him, like, I'll stand right outside the door. I'll, guard it. Like, nobody will mess with you here. Like, don't even worry about it. And I remember how just like seen that they seemed like they were. And I'm identifying this person as a he because that's the way that he presented, but I don't know. He may not have been, he may have been a they, so we'll go with they. But they seemed like they felt seen. And I don't want anyone to feel like they're not a valid human no matter what the heck they want to do. You know what I mean? I miss, and I was talking about it on the live, I miss Trapper Keepers. I feel like I had so many freaking Trapper Keepers, but for those who don't know what that is, it's sort of like a binder that had, like, it would tri-fold, but like it would close, and then there was this little like partial flap that would close over it, but it was Velcro, and so you could sit in class and like with your frickin' Trapper Keeper. But yeah, eventually I think the teachers got sick of listening to kids who just wanted to sit there and like dick around with their Trapper Keeper, the like closing part. And so they were like banned them in school forever. Understandably, because I was obnoxious with my Trapper Keepers. But yeah, I get nostalgic sometimes for 90s things. I mean, I was born in the 80s, but I like my formative years of growing up was like 90s. My teen years were in the 90s. So I'm one of those weird exennials. Not quite Gen X, not quite millennial. And I think a lot of that had to do with like where I grew up and things like that, because, I was a military brat. And so I didn't have a lot of the things that, kids had. And even if we had like video game systems and things like that in the house, I would have had to have like fist fought my brothers for them, and that was not likely to happen. It's not probably going there. But I for all of the things that my life was kind of crap in a lot of ways, I made a lot of really fantastic memories just on my own, without the help of my two very nut job parents that I had. I feel sometimes like another person really could have ended up a sociopath given the same raising or upbringing that I had. I feel like another person really could have gone a completely different way with it. Although I also feel like in a lot of ways it probably gives people a better understanding of how or why a person would use drugs or alcohol in order to deal with trauma. And it's not an excuse. Please don't take it as an excuse. But I think it's a good explanation. Like it's like, oh, I can kind of see. And then add to that the fact that, I was dealing with autism and had no idea that I was trying to mask that as well. Like there's a whole lot of things that I'd mentioned before that, looking at my life now with this other lens, this whole other lens, and making sense of things that didn't make sense before, or that I couldn't figure out the why. I think maybe just saying some of these things to you guys helps you to understand kind of where I am in my journey as not just a human, but a woman, and a woman who also is trying to understand how all of these things work and fit in with my life. And I'm not the kind of person who tries to live in regrets and in blaming others for things. Like, yeah, my parents are responsible for a lot of the ways in which I am massively screwed up. But I feel like I have really in my life done the best I can with the tools I was given. And I do feel like of all the things that I'm the most proud of, I am the most proud of the mother that I became from all of it, and the human that I became from all of it, because I don't want to sit and harbor anger and resentment for anyone, for people, for my family. I don't want that. I think it's just a waste of energy, a waste of a life to hold in all of this just sour. I want to be able to inspire others to know that, like, it can be bad and it can get worse, but you don't have to give in to the feelings that it's hopeless, because it isn't. It isn't. I'm very lost right now in how to feel and how I feel, and I know that answers are coming. I think once I know whether or not that I'm in any sort of way even mentioned in my dad's will, that I will know where I stand. And then I feel like I'll better know how I feel. I think part of me, if I was somehow named in his will, I think part of me will be able to take that as, he eventually was able to forgive me for what my mom did to him, because what my mom did to him was like beyond evil and really vile. And I told him when I spoke to him that, I understood why he would be so hurt and so angry. But it will show me that that even though there were at one point hard feelings, and even though he said to me, like, I blame you and you're the reason that, like, you should have known better at 9, 10, 11 years old. I don't know how the hell that's possible. Like, I would never blame my children for anything from that age and then, like, hold a grudge against them for it. That's just ridiculous. That's crazy talk, right? Like, you can't hold that on an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old. Like, you can't. But I think that I would feel maybe a little bit of vindication. And if I'm not, it won't break me. I want you guys to know that, like, none of any of this is going to make me feel broken. I've been broken, and I've worked very, very hard to repair myself. I'll be hurt. I'll need a little bit to process that. But at the same time, it will answer a whole other question. And then I can really find closure, and I can really move on. And so, right now with, like, I don't even know where he is right now, because he was on a Norwegian cruise when he passed. It was, I guess, very peaceful. He was sleeping. But I don't know where he is. And there's a whole, like, he has to be repatriatized or whatever. Like, there's a whole process. Like, there's a whole ass process. And so I'm not going to have those answers for a while. And I'm going to try to stop torturing myself with these, like, what if games that I'm playing. Like, I've been playing the best case scenario, worst case scenario game with myself for, since I found out. And I'll stop torturing myself with that. I mean, it keeps coming up because that's the way my brain works, is like, a thought doesn't go away until it's thought through to completion. And so I do have a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy to lean back on and kind of be able to sit in those feelings without getting too anxious or upset. But I'm gonna be okay. Ultimately, no matter what happens, I expect nothing. I'm hoping for nothing except just to know one way or the other, and to be able to close that chapter. And unfortunately, no, it didn't end with a beautiful reunion and a resolution. But I don't think it was going to do that anyway. That's not the person that he was. And so, because again, the phone works two directions. The last call I made did not end well. So, I think the ball was really in his court. And I think for him, it would have been really hard to admit that he said something really heinous to me, because he was still very hurt, But I'm going to be okay. I promise. I'm just processing. That's all. And so if I'm distant or I'm, you know, not as open or as responsive as I might normally be, it is not anything personal. It's just the way that I deal with this sort of stuff. I tend to just swallow it and talk it through with Dustin and then try not to let it be someone else's problem, you know? But thank you to those who have kind of just talked me through a couple of things and helped me to realize that, like, it's okay to have big feelings about it, because a part of me has felt like I almost don't deserve to have the feelings about it, you know? It's complicated. And I appreciate everyone who understands how complicated that it is. And now that I told you a little bit of the story, without telling you exactly, I think you can read between the lines enough to understand what I'm inferring and why it would be so complicated, because it's complicated stuff. And maybe you understand a little better why I might be a little careful with the people that I let in all the way, because I've had people the closest to me hurt me really badly, you know? I don't know if you've been hearing this whole time the kids upstairs, but I kind of hope you have, just so you can hear how loud and ridiculous that they are in the middle of the damn night. Okay, let me go ahead and grab my tarot cards so that we can explore our thought for the week. And maybe there's something in there for me today to, you know, kind of help me sort. But, all right, I've already got them shuffled, and this top card is the one. Let's see what we got. The feline? The feline. Looks very cat-like. Very cute. The feline. Okay. The feline. Let's put this right there. Number 65. The feline. Getting it right. Delayed completions. Tidying up loose ends. Okay. The feline looks out of his card accusingly, reminding us of things undone, promises unkept, and duties unfulfilled. He says that we can't expect to have things go right when we are trailing so much unfinished business behind us. I feel red, okay. Dragging that stuff around tires us. It uses up energy that we need for other things. If we would just take care of these things that cause so much mental and sometimes physical clutter, we would suddenly find that we have a lot more energy at our disposal to do the things that we really want to do, and probably much more cooperation from others as well. He especially suggests that we take care of the little things that matter to others. We will feel so much better when we have done that, and so will he. Okay, so I need to take care of the little things that matter to others. I need to stop dragging around unfinished business because it tires us and uses up our energy we need for other things. And I feel like I have been doing that for the last 3 days, you know? Dragging this around. And that rainy day game of what if it's exhausted me. I would be lying if I didn't say that. And maybe you're doing the same thing. Dragging around the little things that tire you and exhaust you. So sometimes you just got to take them out of your emotional backpack and put them where they belong, which is away from you, in the realm of coulda, woulda, shouldas, that it seems to me like a dead-end street with a cul-de-sac, right? And I feel like I got to the end of the dead-end cul-de-sac, and I've been just driving in circles in the cul-de-sac, and I need to come back out. And yes, it will be nice once I have an answer to my question. I can stop this circular thinking, the circular rumination. I'll get there, and you'll get there too. I have faith. But thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I just needed to get that out. Hope you enjoyed my bath bead story about burning my ass off too. Losing all the skin off my ass. Oh, kids, what are you going to do? All right, you guys, much love to you. I appreciate you being here, especially if you made it all the way to the end. And as ever, I hope that wherever you are in this great, big, wide, wonderful world of ours, that you are having a wonderful morning, evening, or afternoon, whatever time it is, wherever you are. All right, see you next time. Bye.